I'm now going to hand you over to the groom.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I just wanted to start by thanking you all from myself and on behalf of my wife. Thank you to each and every one of you for joining us on the most thought about day of our entire lives. But so far it's been pretty much worth it. So great to see so many of our friends and family just gathered together in the place we've set up our lives. And even some of you wanted to be here that much that yesterday I found out you paid twice for your hotel room. I think it's roughly sorted out, though. We've tried to give you each a little pocket of Lichfield by way of your table names. Because, actually, what we thought we'd do originally was just name the tables after places that Jade and I had lived before. But those of you who actually visited some of the places I'd lived in Birmingham, they know why that idea was short-lived. A year ago, I was lucky enough to be best man for one of the fine Toms you'll hear from in a moment. He gave me some of the best advice for the speech, and that was, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with Jade, and let her help hone it. And actually, she helped me so much that by the time the day came around, she probably could have done it herself from memory. But the absolutely useless thing was that it wasn't transferable, because this is the only thing I've had to keep from Jade. So my apologies that I've had to go it alone. Jade often likes to refer to me as her show pony. In fact, it was pretty early on that she very carefully, but brutally, sat me down and explained that everyone has a performative dial that they can adjust from 1 to 10. Except mine's a little bit faulty, because it has an 11. And it doesn't really have a 1 to 10. But I think I've roughly been able to bear in mind that jade-coloured pearl of wisdom, because the observant amongst you will note the sheer lack of PowerPoint presentation, or musical numbers, or even animal assistance. Not to say that all of the above weren't considered, though. Right, on to business. I've got a lot of people to thank, and you've all got lasagna on the brain. Well, that is the 50% of you that don't have the weirdest dietary requirements known to man. Firstly, to my ushers. Next year, it will be 25 years since we've been stuck with each other. But I still look forward to our next hijinks opportunity. Only we can spend half a day drawing crowds trying to get a football out of a tree. Twice. In 2 different countries. Thank you for all of you've done today. I'm sure everyone has felt suitably ushed. But if you haven't, please feel free to provide me with your feedback. You're always there for me, and I know you always will be. There are no 3 people in this world that I would rather accidentally turn up 3 hours to a German non-league football match with. Now, the bridesmaids, who look unbelievable in the dresses we forced them to wear. Kate, you've been with Jade from the start, so there's no question that you'd be our maid of honor. Thank you for organizing her a stellar hen do that people will not stop raving about. Fran, thank you for actually organizing the hen do and not getting any of the credit. Ailey, thank you for delving into the depths of my Facebook and reminding me that I once lied about being accepted onto the Cube for some reason. Rachel, thank you for being far braver than I and sometimes taking Jade out of her comfort zone. And Jess, thank you for keeping me on my toes, never letting me forget that Jade once had a boyfriend before me, and you, crucially, really liked him. It's not unusual anymore for people to have multiple best men, but what very few people get the honor of is best Toms. But when I thought about it, it just made sense. From Tom Stone and I accidentally turning ourselves into science experiment volcanoes due to poor travel food choices, to Tom Bannister and I thinking it a great idea to cook a drunken freezer surprise at 4 a.m, resulting in an angry Russian housemate of mine attacking the fire alarm with a knife. Their impeccable stag do organisation just told us that we were in safe hands, even if the copious amounts of whiskey drinking was directly before the throwing sharp things at the wall. Thank you both for stepping up when bride and groomzilla probably expected a little bit more from you than the average best men. Mum and Dad, I know at times it's been tough, probably tearing your hair out, worried sick, not knowing what to do. That's probably enough about raising Lauren, because you had me as well. I joke, raising me is its own absolute nightmare. Trying to strike that perfect balance between patiently nurturing me to be the best version of myself and some other much more urgent things, like having to drive to Birmingham at 2 in the morning because I'd managed to leave my car door open and sod it off abroad. Thank you for challenging me, investing in me, and above all else, not scaring Jade away, even if the first thing Mum said to her was, "Congratulations." Now, alphabetically, so nobody can claim there's any favoritism, Linda and David. Thank you for welcoming me so quickly and graciously into your family. Linda, you probably thought you'd been a bit too welcoming that time I accidentally texted you to tell you I was having a premium poo. For the class, Jade and I were visiting a spa, and I was taking full advantage of all of the facilities. Also, congratulations for locking in your rest of life subscription to tech support and photo manipulation services. You both deserve it. Your life and career advice, while often unsolicited, is second to none, and it's helped Jade and I no end. Rob and Kath, it feels like such a long time since I foolishly tried to keep up with Rob drinking whiskey the day we met. But I've felt like part of the furniture ever since you first barbecued in the rain and put that big old steak on my plate. I can't believe he didn't mention it, but there is, of course, the time that our shared love of red wine led to my quite literal night on the tiles in the kitchen. Maybe get Rob a drink and ask him to explain that one to you. Thank you for inviting me into the Camps on Tour debacles. And if anything, letting me cause quite a few of the incidents myself. All of you, you should be so proud of the beautiful, intelligent, sometimes stubborn, amazing woman you've raised. I'm so grateful that we met, and a lot of that's down to you. Very early on, I was placed on the outside of Ryan and Camilla's wedding photos, just in case I had to be eventually cropped out. But to have turned from that guy into your son-in-law is an honor to me. Now that brings me, not so swiftly, but I thank you all for your patience, on to the incredible woman sat beside me. Who knew that we'd be here after we first met up in New Street Station, and I awkwardly kissed her on the forehead, as if I'd never met a human being before. But not long after that moment, I knew I had something good to earn, and I've been trying my best ever since. Jade will often say that I have much more patience than her, and that's why I thrived off doing all of the crafting for today, and she, in contrast, thanked heavens that that was the case. But I put it to you that this is the most patient woman in this world, because sat in front of you is a woman in a white dress, despite the fact the guy stood next to her in the first year of our relationship, woke her up to the sound of electric saws, because I was watching woodworking on YouTube at 3 in the morning, and then woke her up again that same night, rustling a packet of Quavers. That patience was definitely tested, though, the first time Jade tried to drive to my flat in Birmingham. She didn't really have it in her to follow my very official instructions of just go the wrong way up a one-way road. It's fine. Turning away from the road took you on a 10-minute diversion via a dual carriageway before you got back to the same place. And I stood at the fork, watching Jade drive towards me, and then chicken out and turn away 3 times before she finally parked up. Needless to say, we spent a bit more time at her home than mine. As early as possible, as Rob mentions, Jade introduced me to her first love, not Barney, but travel. Firstly, Disneyland Paris, as an indicator of what was to come, where I learnt that I had stiff affections, stiff competition. Stiff competition for Jade's affections in a little-known, larger-than-life mouse. Then to Las Vegas, where Jade taught me that, scientifically, Black 24 is the best number to bet on. And eventually to Florida, where I was indoctrinated into her ways. Soon I was justifying the 4-hour waits for theme park rides and exclaiming loudly, well, what do you mean the pretzel with mouse ears is only $15? I joke, I love it just as much as she does, which is just as well, because it was basically a prerequisite for our relationship. Now, I thought I'd leave you with a story that not even Jade fully knows, because what good is an anecdote if you already know all of the details? When we got engaged, Jade and I sat on the floor of our living room for 40 minutes, just debriefing the events that had got us to that stage. And what she knows is that I bought her ring from her jeweler of choice, Costco. But what she doesn't know is that I'd actually already tried... Come on, Ryan. Slash Imogen. I'd actually already tried to buy the ring 1 week earlier in France. And now that's only because I thought it would be easier to keep the secret in France. It has absolutely nothing to do with the potential to reclaim VAT in foreign countries. I was traveling with work, and I made my excuses with my colleagues that something had come up. That something being my desire to sit in traffic for 2 hours, driving straight through Paris, just to get to La Costco, and find that they didn't even sell the ring I wanted. I commiserated myself over a traditional Parisienne Chinese buffet and got back to the hotel pretty late. Back in the UK, back to plan A. This should be fine. What Jade knows is that I went to our much more local Costco, filled in the little slip for the ring that I wanted, and then proceeded to lose it walking from the jewelry cabinet to the till. Convinced that if I didn't find it, it would somehow turn up on my person later on and I'd be rumbled by Jade, I searched the entire store until I found it. But what Jade doesn't know is that when I took that slip to the till, I promptly paid for the ring and was then informed that every single manager with the authority to get it out of the safe was currently stuck in the service lift and had been for the last hour. One of the Toms likes to mention that I have this real knack for finding the weird situations and just plonking myself right in the middle of them. And unfortunately, this had turned into one of those times and could only be weirder if I was somehow in the lift with them. I stood around for the next hour just constantly thinking that Jade was going to worry that I hadn't made it home and check my location and think, well, Ross doesn't have a Costco membership, though. Much to the extent that I was deeply considering trying my hand at lift technicianing myself. But then it was finally fixed, and I had the ring. And I immediately did not trust myself with it whatsoever. And I had to get rid of it. And here we are. Planning this day with Jade has been one of the best experiences of my life. From convincing ourselves that we would just soak in the moment, not book anything until 2023, but somehow having a venue photographer and band by New Year's Day, to just last week, going out in the dead of night together and throwing dead leaves at each other while strangers walked by confused because we thought maybe it would work as confetti. Anyone currently planning a wedding? It doesn't. We've been so worried that Sod's Law was going to hit and one of us would be under the weather on this day that even last week, Jade texted me from work to say, oh, I don't feel very well. I've suddenly come over really, really hot. But luckily, 10 minutes later, she texted me to say, oh, false alarm, someone was messing with the aircon. Jade, I love you more than anything. You are the most beautiful, smart, driven, and kind person I've ever laid my eyes upon. Being silly with you is my favorite thing in the world. So to now have a contract that says you have to do that forever, it's pretty damn good. I don't say this lightly. I would go to a conveniently located Costco at the end of the earth for you. Being able to call myself your husband means the world to me. I don't believe in fate, but that's what makes me feel all the more lucky that I'm stood here today. There's no reason for me to ever buy a lottery ticket, because I've used it all up. Please will you join me in raising your glasses to everyone I've said thank you to, but especially my amazing wife, to Jade. Thank you very much.
I missed a bit. There's a small bit, yeah.
That was so good.
Thank you.